Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Monday Night Raw Wrestling Inc. after show with the triple threat, Triple J, Justin, Jack, and Korderas. How you doing, fellas? Korderas, how are you?
I'm doing great, and every time I hear that, I just I can't help but pop, even if it doesn't look like it on the outside. On the inside, I'm popping huge.
We had a moment tonight that definitely popped me as far as things that got said. But Justin, how was your weekend? Did you chat with your client Slade? Did you chat with him about the match last week? Did you figure things out and maybe work on a game plan for the future?
Well, you're not privy to know that, but I did my job. I did what I have to do. Things are all good over here. I have no complaints. Things are moving in the right direction. And I do have to say this. I'm here tonight. Obviously, I'll be here next week. I think after that, on that particular Raw, I will not be, because WWE comes to town in Pittsburgh, and I can't be here and be there at the same time. So,
so you'll be live. You'll be able to send us the insider notes about how much area is tarped off. That seems to be what everyone's most interested about with live events. But can you believe they tarped off the spot where the cameras are supposed to go?
Yeah. Perhaps maybe I will get the drop in 2 weeks.
There you go. Well, next week they're in Toronto, so we're going to see. I've already talked to a few people that I might pop in on the weekend, but I don't know about Monday yet. So I may do an early run in and just say hello to a few people and be back in time for this next Monday. I will let you know for sure, though.
Jimmy, throw the stripes back on. If they're going to be in your backyard, put the stripes back on and get in there.
I don't know about that. Do you hear that, knees? You hear that?
Oh, could you imagine? There's one of those things where the ref gets taken out and they're like, we need a referee in here. And then Jimmy comes running down the ramp, slides in, counts the 3.
Running? That's the only issue.
You come out from the crowd, you hop the barricade, and you slide in, and you count the 3.
Or get tackled, and we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not Dexter Loomis.
There you go.
Oh, man. So we got a fun show for you guys to chat about, but before we get into it, there's some news items we want to check up on, and first and foremost, we're talking about new directions in WWE. Well, who better to talk about the new direction in WWE than the former head writer himself, Brian Gewirtz. He had some words to say. He was talking about how now there is a fresh new car smell with the WWE writing and what they're seeing on TV. And he says that you can't help but be excited about it. And I'm going to be honest, I have the article here from Wrestling Inc. pulled up, and I got a big ad right in my face as I'm right in the middle of reading it. So I got a little cut off there. We're live, pal. So, but yeah, he was talking about how there's a fresh new car smell and how Triple H has such a knowledge of everything that was going on in NXT. And that's a big help as these talents are coming up to the main roster. But how long can the fresh car smell last, Justin? That's the question he had. And that's the question I posed to you.
Well, it's inevitable. You know, anybody that's ever had that fresh car smell in that new car, it's inevitable. It's going to wear off, but it doesn't mean you can't wash the car. It doesn't mean you can't clean the car. And the metaphor I'm getting at here is that, eventually, I don't know if it's going to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. We're not right now. Triple H is very much in a babyface honeymoon period with the internet audience, the audience that is at least aware that there's been that Vince is not sitting behind the curtain and making the day-to-day creative choices. So, everything positive that happens, even if the damn janitor suggested it and Triple H just happened to sign off and say, sure, everything good that is happening right now, we are giving an attribution. We're drawing a line back to Triple H, whether it's right or wrong. Eventually that will wear off. Eventually it'll just become he's the boss, and he will start to take some heat for when there is that inevitable, as there is in the creative business, something that just doesn't land. There's going to be, I don't know if Triple H can handle the job, but it's, can he continue to get more wins than losses? Can he continue to have more hits than misses? Can he, just when we think maybe things are starting to get just that his version of Raw is getting stale, he does something to spice it up. That's going to be the key. And that's honestly what I think a lot of people would agree that's where Vince kind of fell off, is things just got too redundant for too long a period of time. Vince stopped reinventing things. He stopped. I think that's what the common thing. So time will tell. But I mean, look, he's a student of the game. He's in his early 50s. So, relatively young, hopefully in good health after the scare. Seems like he's in a collaborative state of mind, willing to listen, or willing to maybe not work 20 hours a day and give some more delegation of responsibilities to other people. And just, so I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. But Brian Gewirtz is a great guy to get the perspective from, because, for those who aren't familiar with him, this is a guy who was in a writer's room, and Jimmy, you can attest to this, having been there, in a writer's position where there's a lot of turnover in that job. The average span for a writer in WWE, not long, and so Brian was there for quite a while, was very important for a lot of big stories and big characters, even got brought back as a consultant for a time, part of the Rock Dwayne Johnson's production group. So that, that tells you something. So, he's a guy who, worth listening to from his point of view of how creative is performing.
Yeah, Jimmy, he has a book, Seventh Most Powerful Man or in the WWE. You've been there. Was he fibbing a little bit? Was he really that high up, or was he more of a ninth guy?
But he was pretty much up there, but it was more of a quiet thing. Brian has this way about him where he's so easily approachable. And sometimes you're thinking, is he listening to me? He is, trust me. He's always listening, but it's just that he's so relaxed and so different. A lot of people talk about the difference, as Justin was saying, the difference between approaching someone like a Vince McMahon or a Triple H. There's a difference there as well. And I don't want to say it's because, even though this plays into it, the talent looks at Hunter as one of us. He was there. He knows what this process is like. Vince has this aura about him, rightly or wrongly. Everybody has their own different takes with him, that, I don't know if I could approach Vince with this idea or that idea. Hey, Vince, when you have a minute, can I talk to you and stuff like that? I think people feel intimidated. And it's just that aura that he emits, for lack of a better term. And Hunter doesn't have that. Hunter is very approachable. He was like that before he got into a quote unquote office position. When he was one of the guys, like when he was with DX, he was the voice of reason in the group, so to speak. He was, you know what I mean? And he's easily approachable, and he actually listens.
And to go off of what Jimmy just said here, obviously last night was the DX biography on the A&E series, and going to what Jimmy said about Hunter has been one of them. It's obviously very well documented that early in his career at WWE, that when the curtain call happens, Razor and Diesel are gone, so there's no punishment that can happen to them. Shawn's your champion. You can't afford to strip him or suspend him. So all the crap, all the punishment went to Triple H for the next part of a year. And now he's the boss. So he's gone through so he's paid dues in terms of he's been the guy that's got pig slop thrown on him because he's being punished for something that he collectively did with his buddies that they all thought was, so Vince never had that. I mean, Vince paid his own dues in his own way, but, bought the company from his father and off he went. Certainly gambled on himself, certainly fought the government, certainly fought, whatever, critics. But, Triple H just has a certain respect that he's going to be able to get from talent for having gone through what he's gone through. And then, oh, by the way, also dated and then married the boss's daughter. The ultimate forbidden no-no. Talk about balls and grapefruits. He did it, but he also did it in a respectful way. There's just a lot. So he also saw that perspective where, okay, here's the daughter who grew up as Vince's daughter, grew up in the business, and he's just gotten such perspective and lived such a life that really sets him up for a lot of success of being able to Jimmy's saying, being approachable, but being able to put different lenses on and say, okay, this talent's coming to me with this. I need to treat this talent maybe a little bit different than I would treat this talent because it's all relative.
And I wonder if the paying the dues thing, this is just me speculating here too, but as you mentioned, Vince did pay dues, but to be fair, a lot of the dues he paid, and I mean, I'm not acting like he didn't work for his whole life, but a lot of the big dues he paid when he was really kind of building things was so long ago. Most of the people in that locker room don't really resonate with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Vince again. I don't want to seem like I'm diminishing. Vince did pace it. I mean, Vince gambled on himself. I mean, it's very well documented. If WrestleMania 1 doesn't work, if WrestleMania 3 doesn't work, he's bankrupt. He's not, so he gambled on himself and bet on himself. But Vince was never not in charge. You know what I mean? Other than a brief period of working for his dad, he was never not in charge. He was always the guy. Hunter had to work from literally being nobody from ground up.
And it was a time when the people in the locker room were watching it and alive and there for it, where I think a lot of people in the locker room now probably weren't watching wrestling that closely back when Vince McMahon was betting on himself, or at least the majority of them anyways.
Right, exactly. And like, again, to further Justin's point, the locker room now pretty much has either witnessed it with Hunter or they have heard all about it, because one of the things you do hear in the locker room is a lot of stories about the past. And hey, I remember back in my day, that kind of stuff. And Hunter does have a great reputation, and deservedly so. This isn't me sucking up to the new boss. This is me calling it like it is, as someone that I knew and I called a friend back in the day.
You're just being nice because you're hoping next week you get the ball to jump the barricade, slide into the ring, and declare a new champion.
Jimmy, what size referee shirt are you? Are you a large or an extra large?
I think I'm down to a large, medium-ish, kind of in between. Unlike Spider, who likes to wear the schmedium and get the, show those arms off. But anyway.
Yeah, you got to show the guns.
You versus Spider.
Speaking of betting on themselves, though, Lio Rush has been fueling speculation recently with an Instagram post. He posted a picture of him and Bobby Lashley together from their time in WWE together. And he's a free agent right now, which is getting everyone thinking, is the man of the hour the next to get signed and re-debut in WWE? Jimmy, do you think this is Lio trying to maybe fish for some options here?
It doesn't hurt, especially now when there is a lot of buzz with the new management of Hunter taking over creative and that sort of thing. So if he plans to go to WWE, he also, not only Lio Rush, but a lot of guys are thinking, look, that is a viable option, especially from a creative standpoint now, where, yes, if I have an idea, I feel comfortable presenting it as well. And maybe they'll accept it, maybe they won't. But at the same time, it won't be one of those, well, you do what we tell you to do, and that's it, kind of thing, which was the perception before. And that being said, should the other guys be worried a little bit? I don't think they need to be worried, because they've got a hell of a locker room. They're pretty deep too. It's just, man, I don't know how to put it any differently other than now there's viable options for Lio, and wherever he goes, just hopefully he gets used in a sense. At least if he goes back to WWE, there is a better chance of him getting used to his fullest potential.
Yeah, Justin, do you think if he does go to WWE, again, stacked locker room, is that the best place for him? It'd be a place he has to fight for time, I'd imagine, because it is so stacked. But of course, it's the WWE.
Well, look, Lio Rush definitely showed he's a dual threat. Obviously, he can do some phenomenal things in the ring. No disrespect to phenomenal AJ Styles, but he's also a great talker, and he kind of in a time where WWE is few and far between with managers, he was a nice asset to Bobby Lashley prior to Bobby Lashley having the Hurt Business and MVP. For heel Bobby, Lio worked. So I don't know. I don't know if there's some. I don't know if that was him hinting and wink, wink. I signed a deal and I'm coming back, or if it was just fishing, which I don't blame him or anybody at this point, because right now where it seems like anything is possible, and that some guys or girls who were once cut are now coming back at the judgment of Triple H. Shoot your shot. Put your teases out there. Put your photos out there. And if it goes viral and gets enough buzz, maybe it gets back to the office. Or then you text Hunter and say, hey, by the way, did you see a lot of it was the most commented thing on Instagram this week? And who knows? What does it hurt? Leo's the only thing I'll say, and again, you don't know, obviously, and again, Vince was in charge when he was last in WWE, so who knows where they're where the butting of heads might have came there. He had a had a cup of coffee at AEW, and we don't know what happened there. And AEW is in a place where they, seem to sign almost everybody. So I would wonder what his reputation is.
Mm-hmm.
I would just wonder that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking to it being a good idea all around. I mean, even if he has no intentions of signing with WWE, I could imagine that as he's working the independent scene, that's one of those things that makes people go, "Ooh, we better sign him to do a show now before he gets picked up."
Yes,
which might give him a little bump in booking fees and things like that. So overall, good move on Lio Rush there. But speaking of signings, thinking about things shaking up, according to a report from Fightful Select, many WWE talent believe that there will be a WWE draft in the fall. Several Raw stars are set for the first episode of WWE SmackDown after Clash of the Castle, and SmackDown stars are scheduled for both the September 5th and September 12th episodes of Raw. Many talent are speculating that the draft could be coming after the Clash Premium Live event. Another factor lending credence to this speculation is the fact that WWE writers have noted that repackages to various talent are coming around the same time as the cross-branded shows. Max Dupree and T-Bar are both speculated as possible candidates for repackaging. T-Bar recently wrestled the stand-up match against Ali on main event. So now, Justin, makes sense. A draft happening, new creative, mix things up, kind of get a fresh restart, especially after Clash of the Castle, which feels like it's their last sort of predetermined thing before all this started. But at the same time, I think, well, they're going to be in the UK. So having people from both brands on the next show kind of makes sense because there's going to be some jet lag. Do you think where do you think of this?
Yeah, this draft might be able to be identified as the ultimate complete reset of management change. Because as you just said, Jack, in the inherited shows and creative that Triple H inherited, obviously, SummerSlam right on the corner, he just kind of had to get through that. Not get through, but you know what I mean. And even Clash was already, it was already kind of marketed around. It was going to be Drew versus Roman, even though it was not made official for a while. So yeah, once you get through that, they have a Saudi show, which there's absolutely nothing advertised for that. So that's a fresh slate. And then of course you have, God, it'd be great to see Survivor Series come back to some real relevance. And then you're into day one, and then God, you're at Rumble. Who the hell could come back at Rumble? And you're on the road to Mania.
Jeez, where does the year go?
Right. So yeah. So if the draft happening sometime after this Clash of the Castle makes a lot of sense, and this might be the most important draft in a long, long time because if they still are going to have the brand split, this will be again Triple H's creative to how is this going to operate? Who's ready from NXT to come up? Maybe who from Raw or SmackDown I want to send down on my buddy Sean to work in Orlando a little bit, kind of like we saw Apollo Crews do recently. So, what big things could he be cooking up to satisfy the Saudis and do that big marquee stadium show? So the draft will be huge because that's really going to be his chance. The draft is the chance to completely scrap everything and restart. And so so anything that's left lingering, that whether it's a character's name or their backstory or their storyline or whatever, he can literally get it all. He can hit the reset button with everything on that night.
Jimmy, is this are you someone that likes the idea of multiple rosters, or do you think that there should just be one? Because they've obviously had Drew on tonight, spoiler alert, but do you like the idea of one roster? How do you feel about the multiple roster thing?
Well, as someone who went through a few drafts back in my day, I like the idea of having separate rosters because the roster is so huge and there's only a finite amount of TV time for everybody. And we see it on other shows where, Justin, they like to try to cram 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag. This way, you don't have to put everybody on every week. I wish some people would get that idea out of their head where this guy has to be shown every week and this person has to be shown every week and this talent has to be shown every week. No, you don't have to be shown every week. It's good to be on every week, especially if you're one of the more over people. But when you are one of the more over people, people have a desire to see you and you can tease that and help in the future. That being said, I'm getting a little off topic here. I like the idea of the two separate rosters, and I like keeping them separate and have crossover very minimally, so that when there is someone from Raw who pops onto SmackDown, or someone from SmackDown may pop onto Raw, it's so rare that when it happens, it means something. It's a big deal. Like, sorry, Justin, I don't mean to cut you. It's kind of like you mentioned Drew tonight for Raw. It would have made a bigger deal if we didn't see that more often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree with Jimmy, as long as the roster is as big as it is, and as long as Raw and SmackDown is always owned by two different parent companies in terms of its distribution. But if once the next TV deal comes around in 2 years here, if it ever gets to the point where Raw and SmackDown, like if Raw and SmackDown are both on, I don't know. I at some point, because I wonder, like, I agree, there needs to be some separation. There needs to be a reason. Oh, I only get to see this person on Friday. That's a reason to tune in on Friday. I only see this person. But at the same time, I also, when the brand extension started, it started after, Vince had bought WCW, bought ECW. So then they had to manufacture their own competition, right? They had to manufacture brand supremacy. And I remember even JBL saying on some documentary, we've established, brand loyalty, where there's people that just watch SmackDown, people that, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if there are people that just watch Raw, just watch SmackDown. So that's where I always wonders, like tonight, and again, not to get ahead, when we get to McIntyre, I was waiting for Karrion Kross at some point to come out. And then part of me stopped and goes, well, does everybody watching the show know that Karrion Kross has returned? And oh, by the way, he's returned to SmackDown, and he was last seen on Raw a year ago. So, like, I don't know. I'm very curious what the viewing habits of people are. And then again, it's the internet, so everybody's probably watched clips on social. And so even if you don't watch SmackDown for the full 2 hours, you probably know Kross is back. I don't know. I'll be, again, that's why I go back. This draft will be really interesting to see how Triple H handles it and who he puts where.
Follow-up for you, Justin. Is this kind of their way to separate the titles? Could you have Drew get the win, have the big moment where Roman Reigns gets defeated, and then with Drew day one of his title reign, say, okay, now we're going to split them up, and it doesn't feel like you're interrupting anything?
I don't know. It certainly feels like, but right now the way the verbiage is the undisputed WWE, like they're encompassing both titles in the verbiage. So it feels like if Drew wins at Clash, that he all of a sudden now has two straps. I don't know. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but that's how I feel about it right now.
I personally do think that you should have, even if they're separate brands, you should have one champion that rules over all of them.
I absolutely agree. Sorry to cut you off, Jack, but I absolutely agree with that. And as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, they have done a good job of elevating both the quote unquote secondary championships, the Intercontinental Championship, which main evented on Friday night in a heck of a match. And then, they're elevating the US title, which should have main evented tonight, but again, we'll get to that a little later. But anyways, they're in the process of elevating those titles. And as even the announcers called them, the workhorse championships, one could be the symbol of Raw, one could be the symbol of SmackDown, with that world champion who, again, rarely appears on television in a match, appearing on both occasionally.
And that's the way to go. If they can get away, especially, again, I understand right now it's tough. They're playing with the business fire to have NBC own Raw right now. And oh, by the way, NBC is also paying a lot of money to lease and have the network and the video archive. I can understand an NBC executive going, I'm kind of pissed that I don't got Roman Reigns on my show every single week, but I'm paying you this. But he's showing up on Fox's show. If they can get back to a point where somebody owns the distribution for both shows, if that happens and come 2024 and the new deals would kick in, I like Jimmy's thought. Let that world champion only ever defend and only ever be in a match on premium live events, but make the U.S. and Intercontinental so big that that's the main event title that we see change hands and defended regularly on the weekly shows. I think Triple H is already making a point towards that, to the points you guys all just made, and the way we've seen the U.S. and IC title showcased just in the last couple of weeks. I really think that we're moving in that direction. I think that's the right way to go.
We got a few super chats I want to make sure we get to. Apox Music says, I love how they're booking into next week. I bought tickets for the Toronto show months ago, but due to Triple H, I'm now actually hyped. Cheers, guys. So thank you for the chat, Apox Music. But yeah, just without getting the nitty gritty of the week, Jimmy, I want to get your thoughts. I love how they're actually building up. Like, hey, there's a big match next week. They're doing things next week as opposed to just Welcome to Monday Night Raw.
Exactly. It's how it used to be. They used to advertise something for the next week because they gave the audience something to look forward to. Someone where you go, hey, you know what? This is happening next week on Raw. I really have to tune in to see this. Or if you're here in Toronto, maybe it'll make you say, you know what? I would love to see that live.
Mm-hmm. We also got another one from Keith Robinson who says, and I think this is in regards to us talking about Vince McMahon. I go back to when Vince did the Pat McAfee show. Do you think he was foreshadowing now and was trying to improve his image on Pat's show? Justin, I see you shaking your head no.
No, I think I don't think it was that elaborate. I think Vince did Pat's show to obviously they set up the I guess the WrestleMania match. Pat was gonna have a WrestleMania match, and Vince has been known to do a few big interviews as you're on the road to Mania. He did a famous one on Howard Stern in 2001 leading up to WrestleMania 17. I think it was to help get Pat over. Maybe Vince knew rumblings of the investigations of stories to come. Maybe he heard rumblings because he's that powerful. He's going to get wind of that stuff. But I don't think that he, just knowing what we think we know of him, I don't think he thought, well, in 4 or 5 months, I might be ousted. I might not be in charge anymore. So I better start doing damage. No, this is the guy that after the first Wall Street Journal piece comes out, wanted to make a point to come out and be seen on TV to kind of stick it to everybody. So I don't think that he was doing anything more that Pat McAfee show other than throwing Pat a bone to be a big guest and to help promote Pat and WrestleMania.
And then we got another super chat from Allison Tuckwab who says, what happened to 2 hours? Triple H says he was going to change. Nothing changed, and he's pulling wrestlers in like fish. At least it seems that way. Well, I'd say, Allison, if you say nothing changed, but he's pulling in new wrestlers, I mean, that's possibly the change. I feel like there's a change to it, but Corduroy, what do you think about Allison's statements here about nothing changing?
I get the idea that people think that 3 hours on a Monday night is a lot, and it is a lot, and especially in today's world where the attention span of all fans for anything is like not what it used to be. Let's put it that way. Even for movies, when I see a movie is like 3 hours, I'm like, I don't know if I could sit through 3 hours in a theater, that kind of stuff, whatever. But at the same time, from a business standpoint, the way the television, deals are structured, there's more money in the extra hour. So at this point, it makes no sense from a business standpoint to take an hour away. And not only that, like I said, you can take your time telling your stories. Like tonight, I saw that they were taking their time with their stories. You may not have got as many people jammed into the show as you could have in 3 hours, but at the same time, you didn't hurry things along and you didn't rush. That's one thing I think Hunter's doing well right now is he's utilizing that time well. All 3 hours of it.
Yeah, I'd quit holding your breath on the 3 hour thing. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But let's get into the show. Before I get into the show, though, I always like to first give a shout out to everyone who's in the chat, whether it be John Millard, Christopher Suarez, Chuba Kichu, Sergio Cardenas. I feel like I said that name wrong, Sergio. I'm sorry. But No Bueno crew in the chat. Baby Ice, Dream Realm Studios, Stephen Camp, Junior N, Dylan, Matthew, Zook, Enigma, Goodfella, 1422, Ricky Zaldivar, and Doc P, and many, many more. Thank you so much for joining us live in the chat.
What a crew that sounds like.
What was that?
What a crew that sounds like.
we got the crew here. But also, if you're listening on YouTube or if you're watching this later, leave a comment. Why don't you? If you're listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Why don't you? If you're on Spotify, I don't know, just share the show, whatever you do on Spotify to show that you're enjoying it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, chatting with us, and all that good stuff. But let's get into the show. We start with Judgment Day coming out, and Rhea starts the promo, and she says she destroyed Dominic. And then Finn follows up, and he says he destroyed Rey Mysterio. And then Damian Priest gets the microphone and says, Yeah. I'll get to it. I'll get to Edge. Just give me some time. Hold on. Rey eventually arrives and clears out the Judgment Day. Then he levels everyone with a chair before Rhea distracts him, and then they beat down Rey as a group. Justin, is Rhea starting the promo? Is her presence, is she more and more becoming the leader of this group? I've said it before, but more and more it feels like she's the centerpiece.
Momentum is working in her favor. She is she's standing out. And tonight was a great dynamic. She towers over Rey, as most people do, but she's obviously a uniquely tall woman. Her build, her physique. She towers over Rey, but of course he can't hit her. So what a great little psychological, thing there is there. After she was choking out his son. So I mean, yeah, she really is, and even the framing, they do the entrance, and you see Priest and you see Finn, but she's the center. So they're doing things right now. This is Judgment Day. Don't know the story. Maybe Jimmy will find out eventually. Maybe we'll find out eventually on A&E documentary. Maybe we'll find out next week in the match. Obviously Edge started it. It seems like an audible is called. Was it because they thought this was the best creative to have Edge come back as face? Was it because Cody Rhodes got hurt, so we need Edge's face? Whatever it may be, but for a moment there, it looked like Judgment Day might be dead in the water. It might be retribution material. But now the tide has turned, and now Retribution looks more dominant. Rhea's elevating. Finn's elevating. Priest is elevating. He's going to be in a main event match on Monday Night Raw and what's going to be a sold-out Toronto arena, I'm sure, against Edge for his first match in over a decade on Raw. All of a sudden, this Judgment Day does not feel dead in the water. It feels like they can get over even if Priest does not go over next week.
Yeah, they're definitely picking up steam. And Jimmy, I want to talk to you about Damian Priest here because we talk about the promos lately, but he was working the crowd a little bit. He was definitely not on rails on this one. He was responding to what the crowd was saying. I don't know if this is a promo that we're going to be talking about for years and years, but I think this was one of Damian Priest's better promos.
It felt natural, and that's the whole thing. Everybody talks about the scripted nature of pro wrestling, especially in the promo segments. This one didn't feel like that, and maybe he had to. Maybe this is the sign of how things are going to come to the future, where you got bullet points, but we want to see you. We want to see you, your character. We want to see you take these words and make them your own. And interacting with the crowd was a way that heels used to get heat back in the day. And guess what? I like to use this reference where, when the wheel was invented, it was made of stone, but then it became wood. And then they made it out of rubber, then vulcanized rubber, then run flat and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, guess what? That wheel is round. It still works round. And I think that's what they're utilizing now. They're blending, like I said, I think I said this last week. I think one of the things Hunter's really, really brilliant at right now, in my opinion, is blending old school with new school and making it work, especially in today's day and age where the fans see the heel and go, oh, that guy's a great heel. It's so cool. And they get all excited about it, as opposed to going, what a son of a, man, boo, I want to see him get his ass kicked. That's one of the things that is kind of lacking nowadays, but now we're seeing a little bit more of that, which is kind of cool.
That is, Justin, to Jimmy's point there, and going back, sorry to go right back to Rhea here, but today it was almost like she was verbally saying that, like, come on, hit me. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I want Rhea to hit her. I want someone to hit Rhea Ripley. I was like, it was perfect. I was like, she's doing exactly what Jimmy's saying.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'll go back. Judgment Day just has a swing of momentum right now. And I'm intrigued because next week, Priest versus Edge in Toronto, presumably going to be pegged in that main event slot. And we'll really want to see, can a main event like this boost the third hour, which typically is the lowest rated hour anymore, just because it is the third. And under Triple H, what's going to come out of it? Is it going to be as black and white as Edge gets a win? Is it as black and white as Priest gets a win on the creator? Is there a swerve? Is there a return? Is there a new dark leader of Judgment Day? Like, I mean, there's just if anything is possible right now. That's what it feels like.
And that's the beauty of it. Speaking of anything is possible, anyone could be the next women's tag team champions. But we saw two teams go at it in the tournament. Asuka and Alexa Bliss teamed up against Nikki ASH and Doudrop with Bianca Belair at ringside. And we got a pretty competitive and clean matchup, all things considered, given everything that was going on in this. We do get a post-match 3-on-3 stare down. But Jimmy, this was, like I said, were you surprised that we didn't get any shenanigans, or that, I mean, Bianca Belair was out there, but she didn't really do anything?
No, a little bit. I wasn't surprised that Bianca didn't really do anything. I just, I was surprised that the other trio, Bailey and company, didn't come out during the match and create a disturbance, so to speak, a distraction that would have maybe cost the team the match. But at the end of the day, I like the fact that they kept that interaction between the two sides to the end, and just pretty much a face off, and had the officials and the agents and whatever come out and keep things somewhat calm.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'll just say, Nikki and Doudrop, how long are we going to keep them together? How long is Doudrop going to be Doudrop? I don't know. But even just a little alterations they did to Nikki's appearance, they at least looked more uniform together. They looked a little more serious together. So obviously they didn't get the win, but I felt they were less embarrassing than what they've been in recent weeks.
High praise, by the way. But I do like them as a team, actually, and I feel like, to your point, Justin, it wouldn't take major changes to get them on a track that would make them a great team, I don't think.
No, well, I mean, look, and who knows the origin of their pairing, of what the logic was in the writer's room or in Vince's opinion, but there are some things that make sense. It's not a bad tag team formula to have the two different body types and builds to complement each other and to play off each other. They're both Scottish, I believe, so there's a right there. There's a the awkwardness was just that this happy-go Doudrop character and then this Nikki ASH superhero. That's where the awkwardness came. But if they can kind of shed that and can kind of come together, like I said, even Nikki tonight, I think she had like a leather jacket and they were both wearing kind of black and they were in matching colors. That can at least make them look more on purpose of a tag team rather than just two singles that get tossed together in the blender. So I'll be interested to see, now that they're out of this tournament, do they remain a tag team, or do what do we get? But I think they were just less embarrassing of a presentation, is the only way I could phrase it.
So we're getting Asuka and Alexa versus Io Sky and Dakota Kai next week, Jimmy. It feels like they're both kind of the favorites to win this thing. Is it a little surprising that they're on the same side of the brackets?
A little bit, but at the same time, we're seeing a lot more of these, matchups where, it's not defined who the crowd is going to be behind in these matchups. And also there's a lot of speculation out there about possible return of the former champs and stuff like that. So who knows what's in the books. And I like the fact that people are guessing. That it's not like it's a foregone conclusion that this is going to happen. I like the fact that everything is very much up in the air, and you can go in several different directions and they would work.
So we continue on, and we have a backstage segment that I wanted to touch on real quick, and that's Theory and Ziggler, because I thought this was fantastic. Theory says he's more dangerous than ever. Ziggler then calls him out and says, "Dude, you've been getting beat up like crazy. I earned this and cashed it in, and that's why my cash-in meant something." And he does have one of the best cash-ins, by the way. But then Theory calls him over the hill, and they get into a vicious fight, Justin. I love that they called back on this, that they didn't just sweep it under the rug. And now, before, where it was just kind of like this thing that was happening, I'm like, these guys seem like they hate each other.
Exactly. Theory had been off TV for a few weeks, as you said. And, look, just drawing to the past. And it was simple, it was effective. And then, their brawl happened. And then the brawl continued after the commercial. Like, it's just a simple extra pre-tape, right? Probably, I mean, but it made it worthy of then when they locked up in what would be the main event of tonight. There was heat there was animosity there. These guys had to be separated, and there's a little bit of history, as you acknowledged, with the Money in the Bank. And so this was well done. And I like even when they continue to fight backstage, they basically fight into the camera, and that's what cuts the camera. I mean, it just had just more of, again, a chaotic, unpredictable feel. And I mean, that's all you don't, who the hell wants to watch anything? Pro wrestling, crime drama, comedy, sitcom. Who wants to watch anything and be able to predict the next joke, the next the next perp? No, that's no fun. What is that? Just keep me guessing of what you're going to show me next, and that's all it takes. And that's what they did tonight in very simple form.
Yeah, Jimmy, anything you want to add to this one? I thought it was great. I know we're going to talk about the match in a little bit, but anything you pulled from this that you wanted to share?
No, I think Justin pretty much hit everything spot on, in my opinion. And like you said, it felt, you feel like the animosity between these guys. And I like the fact, and what it is you've got your old school elevating your new school, which is what this business has been predicated on since day one. You know, where the veterans are helping elevate, regardless of the fact, we're not going to talk about who won the match later on, but until then, but at the same time, regardless of the outcome of that match and who goes over, as we say, you can still get over without going over. And these are two guys that are, Ziggler's over huge with the audience, and Theory is on his way there. Yeah, and tonight helped a lot.
Because once upon a time, Dolph Ziggler was in the booking position that Austin Theory's in. So it's again, if you're a long-term fan, if you're a smarter fan that can dive into that, you see the parallels of, this is one generation coming to another here.
And so, good stuff there as we continue through. Now, this is where things I thought got really, really good. I really enjoyed this. I don't know how the rest of the world felt about it, but we got Miz and Champa versus Ali and Cedric. And first, they're upset that AJ Styles is getting a shot at the U.S. title, which is obviously foreshadowing some stuff later. But then they also give each other some Pokemon cards. I thought was great. And of course, we get a really great match between these two tag teams. Now, Jimmy, Cedric and Ali were two of my favorites on 205 Live during the time. I didn't watch 205 Live its whole run, but when I was watching, they were the guys on top there. And I think they've got a lot of credit here in amongst the internet wrestling fans. Do you think that this is a tag team that we should see more of? Did they win you over? What were your thoughts from them in this performance?
Well, I did enjoy them as a tag team, and I thought they performed very well, and they meshed very well with Miz and Ciampa. But at the same time, I don't want to say that they were elevated more in this match against Miz and Ciampa, despite the fact that they lost to the heels. At the same time, I'd like to see more from them. This was just kind of like, it almost felt a little bit like a thrown together team and into a big position like that. But at the same time, I thought they performed very well. Like you said, the match was very good. I don't know if I like the timing of it. I like the fact that they are putting emphasis on tag team wrestling again, but it just felt like a tag team match for the sake of a tag team match.
It did, but the positive I took out of it was, it's kind of like, okay, Miz and Ciampa are still our focal point right now on storylines. They're who we're building right now. But let's go ahead and give Ali and Cedric some time to go out there and let the audience at least just get, see them more, and, maybe say, oh, I'd like to see them again. And so, there was, Ali did this 450 that Ciampa was able to then hit his knee. There was some fun stuff to watch here. So, I thought that this was kind of like trying to meet in the middle. Let's stick with what we're trying to focus on, which is Ciampa's a project that we're trying to put center. We're trying to put, front and center. Obviously, Miz is a future Hall of Famer, but rather than having them just embarrass Ali and Cedric in 3 minutes, let's try to, it was kind of an AEW mindset in some ways where we don't believe in squash, so let's give everybody a little bit of time. But I think we'd all agree that Ali and Cedric let's give him some time, but let's find it appropriately where we need to do it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I enjoyed watching these four get kind of creative freedom to put some of the sequences together that they did.
Justin, now we've said before on the show many times that Miz might be one of the most underappreciated wrestlers going right now.
Sure.
Is Champa the most pliable wrestler, and that you can kind of put him anywhere because he's been a serial killer on NXT. He's now being kind of goofy with Pokemon cards, and Miz, I feel like surprisingly, because I wouldn't have thought this, but watching him, he fits right in with the Miz. The fact that he's gone from the psycho killer NXT to hanging with the Miz and it feels natural, I'm kind of blown away by that.
Yeah, no, it's a credit to him. He's making it work because he was very believable as the Sicilian psychopath, and he is somewhat entertaining as the patting himself on the back, being kind of the Miz's lackey, even though when you look at them, you're like, he's being the Miz's lackey, but I feel like he could strangle the Miz if he wanted to flip the switch. So, I mean, yeah, credit to him, I guess, and credit to everybody. It is just kind of working. And Ciampa, to put him over here, he's not the biggest guy. I mean, he's not even 5'10", so he's not a big guy. He's got a great physique, but he's got a great physique and he's got a great facial, but he's not an imposing figure via his size stats, but yet he makes himself larger than life when he needs to. But yeah, now he's doing this kind of, it's not all comedy, but he's doing this sidekick with the Miz and it's working. So, probably praise to everybody. And again, praise to the Miz, because the Miz just is, he's really freaking good, despite some people who still think they can knock him and say that he doesn't belong, which is asinine.
Right.
Yeah, he's fantastic. But we had two little backstage things can't come up. Technically three, because I'm going to do a callback that I forgot to touch on earlier. But first off, there was an arm during the fight between Theory and Ziggler on the arm or on the door. And then also there's a fire backstage getting put out. So more chaos is going on backstage. Jimmy, I want your thoughts on that, as well as we got to see the whole beautiful Ezekiel Elias family. It was good to see. Was it Ernie Sr.? Was that him?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, that was fun, and that just again, I hate to put it this way, but wrestling is like a variety show. You get a little bit of everything. You get some of that fun stuff. You get the more serious stuff. You get stuff like that. And again, here are more question marks that make you want to tune in and say, "Hey, we saw the arm, we saw the fire. What's going on with that stuff? How did that begin? Where are my thoughts going?" Then names start popping into your head. Oh, I hope it's so and so. I hope it's so and so. Maybe it is this person. Maybe this person's coming back, which seems to be the prevailing thoughts now that Triple H is in charge. And who knows? It could very well be. I'm just curious. I'm excited to see who or where this leads.
And there was one more backstage too. It was the last backstage pre-tape we saw of a talent getting ready. Where if you looked back left, Adam Pearce was instructing the security of something, and then that was the last pre-tape before we then saw that security need to come address a man in a black hoodie who jumped the barricade.
Ah, yes.
So it's great that they have us paying attention to these little things. By the way, it's just fun. It's cool. Now we're all looking for these little Easter eggs and things like that. This next bit, no Easter eggs needed. It was just pure meat and potatoes. Great stuff. Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. I was going nuts for this segment. Drew McIntyre comes back and says he's hurt, or comes out and says he hurt his back carrying the company for 3 years, but he loves it. And then he's listing off potential opponents, and KO answers and says he looks like a cartoon and talks with a dumb voice, and he's going to be the prize fighter now. Then we get a match, and they just tear into each other. It's a great match that ends in DQ. KO hits Drew after the match and says that Reigns owes him one. Then Drew wrecks the Usos again, something he did on Friday night as well. This was Justin, I was thinking to myself, this felt like KO cutting the promo of a lifetime, Drew McIntyre cutting the promo of a lifetime. This was just fantastic like both of them seemed like absolute superstars after that promo.
They did. The promo felt like it was creatively left in their hands. That's what it really felt like. There was a lot of terminology that was dropped real quickly of we're pro wrestlers, we're in a pro wrestling ring. Let's just, I mean, it felt, yeah, that's right. A lot of taboo words.
Yeah.
But it felt good. It felt good to see and feel the rage from Drew McIntyre. Yeah, and then the match was so good. The match got a "This is awesome" chant, went a couple segments, and really, I mean, it was just a test of going back to the well. KO tries a frog splash, he tries the swanton, he gets a block, tries it again. Like if they keep all going back to things, and I got to a point where I'm watching this match, and I'm like, Jimmy is the ref here. I'm watching. I'm like, okay, based upon Drew's challenging Roman here in a few weeks at the live event, the premium live event. KO is KO right now. Neither one of these guys can get their shoulders pinned. And this match is just, the audience is loving it. There is just a heat waiting here for somebody to screw this up. I didn't know if it was going to be Cross, I didn't know if it was going to be the Usos, ends up being the Usos, but I mean, that was all I could think was, this match is so good, and they're not going to let me get a winner.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yeah, it was. And Jimmy, before I definitely want to get your point on this, but yeah, just going back to that promo, this was one of those ones I felt like when I was younger watching with my friend, like on the couch, and they're talking to each other, and you're like, oh, you're like hitting each other. They're digging into each other. This is great. But Jimmy, I want you to speak on that, but also the DQ. This is what my notes say. Maybe the sins of the past creeping up into the Triple H era. These long matches that are great, that we know aren't going to end clean, and we're going to get a DQ. Maybe the right answer, but I'll be honest, in the moment, I was a little bummed out.
No, and it's understandable that you'd be bummed out that you didn't get a clean, decisive winner in a clean, decisive finish, or even a heel type finish, whatever the case may be. At the same time, DQ finishes work because they prolong storylines. And what we got tonight between Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre was, like you guys said, one hell of a match. And we got to see the Kevin Owens that we got to know back in the day, not the one who was having problems with Zeke. And yes, he made that work. That whole stuff with Ezekiel, he made that work. It was Kevin Owens who made that story work. But Kevin Owens is a type of wrestler, and I'm not saying this because he's Canadian, fellow Canadian, but it's because he's that good that wherever he is placed, he will make it work, and he puts in 110%. And we saw, like you said, we saw the real Kevin Owens tonight. I love the more serious nature in his tone. I love the fact that he was a little more aggressive, and he was passionate. And you felt that passion in his promo. And the same with Drew. And both guys look like, despite the fact that they were a little maybe snug with each other, love being in the ring with each other.
But would they have it any other way? They don't want to go through the curtain and say, that looked pretty light and weak late next time.
Not those two guys.
One of the things he said, talking about, just popping me, is when Kevin Owens, or speaking about being Canadian, is when he came out and said, enough is enough and it's time for a change. I was like, yeah. I got way more excited about that than I probably should have. But we got some super chats here. And Amit, you've been waiting for a long time, but I wanted to wait until we were to this part of the show, so I appreciate your patience. Amit says, Roman should vacate one title to someone like Drew or KO, as Raw is on fire right now. Isn't his part-time schedule already hurting SmackDown ratings?
No,
Justin, I'll let you take that one.
It's not hurting the ratings. It's not hurting the ratings, and no. Why would you win some titles at Mania like he did? Hold them and defend them for 5-6 months like he has now, and then say, okay, I'm going to vacate. I'm just going to hand it over. No, they need to figure out, and I think this is probably one of the top priorities in Triple H's transition at creative. Is okay. What did Vince have in mind? Was Roman a champion? Is Roman a champion of two straps, or have we unified them, or we're going to revert back to US and IC being, as we talked about? That's probably one of the top priorities that Triple H is figuring out right now. He's probably talking to Roman. He's probably talking to. They need to figure that out. But if it is going to be two separate straps, and if they don't want Roman to have both, they're not going to have Roman just vacate. They're going to figure a creative way out to where somebody challenges Roman for everything, and Roman's going, whoa, I got 2 straps here. Who are you? You get to challenge me for 2 titles? Earn your keep. You get to challenge me for 1 title first. And then he'll lose that. Be creative. Let Roman keep, you've built Roman up for the last couple of years. Don't just lose all that. Let him still be him. So that's what they need to do. That's what they need to do. They don't need to have a vacation. And no, he's not hurting. He's not hurting the ratings at all.
Yeah, Jimmy, I always say that the worst thing you can do in wrestling is say, oh, that thing that happened in the past didn't matter. And I feel like him just vacating a title would be like, oh, yeah, WrestleMania, that didn't really matter.
Yeah. We don't want to see him under Blaze at one of the championships at all. That's for sure. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with him having the unified championships and being the champion of both brands of one company.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean? Yes, technically one's the Raw championship and one's the SmackDown championship, but at the same time, he unified them. Regardless of the fact that he's carrying two title belts around, it's a unified championship. So I don't know. I don't agree with you, young man.
Well, we got Allison Tuckwab in the chat also adding, I had fun with Issa. I was talking with her. She has a personal talking show. So very cool. Shout out to NYC Demon Diva.
She has her watch-alongs.
Issa and her watch-alongs. Very fun. Check her out on Twitch. But Allison also adds, do you think by chance the 2 companies meet each other by accident schedule-wise? I'm guessing maybe like doing a pay-per-view on the same show, Jimmy, or
when you say 2 companies,
I'm guessing like AEW and WWE is what I would assume. Allison, let me know if I'm misunderstanding that, but
I don't think that would happen by accident. I think happening on the same weekend, possibly, because now WWE is doing their premium live events on Saturdays. I could see them doing a Saturday, maybe AEW possibly doing a Sunday on the same weekend. But they're either way, regardless of who you're more of a fan of, it doesn't matter. You're kind of hurting your own business because you're making fans choose, especially the ones that may not be able to catch both pay-per-views and have to make a choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's never an accident. I mean, like, first off, WCW and WWE, Allison, in their Monday Night Wars, they went head to head, and that's when the pay-per-views got up to where there's 1 a month, where it became 12 a year. They never, ever, and they all stayed on Sundays, ever had one pay-per-view the same day as the other. You never saw Halloween Havoc on the same October Sunday as No Mercy. Like, that just never happened.
Right.
It's not going to happen. A perfect example, coming up here on Labor Day weekend here in the U.S., WWE is doing their newfound territory of a Saturday show with the Clash in the Castle in Cardiff. So All Out pushed themselves, AEW, they're going to do Sunday, September 4th. Like, we might have the same weekend. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. Tune into Wrestling Inc. But the companies are never going to try to go head to head for their premium live events / pay-per-views. That's just stupid business.
Yeah, you're just costing yourself money at that point. But Rollins comes out, says that before Riddle can make an announcement, Riddle interrupts and says that he's not only healthy, but he's there. So he runs out there and they fight it out. And Riddle eventually chases Rollins out through the crowd and then tells Kevin Patrick that he's going to meet him at Clash of the Castle. Hey, Kevin Patrick will be there. Jimmy, this was just I think this was a quick, fun segment. I didn't overthink it and did what it was supposed to do.
Absolutely. And again, it was entertaining. It was fun. And like you said, sometimes there's a tendency nowadays to overthink things. Yes, you can be overly creative, for lack of a better term. Keep it simple. Stupid sometimes is still the best method to get to where you want to go. And the destination here was to promote their upcoming match at Clash at the Castle. And I think they did a wonderful job of doing that.
Yep.
Yeah, and this match could have took place at SummerSlam. The Riddle injury was a storyline injury. He's fine. But people asked, why did they not do it? And this is why. SummerSlam was already stacked. You didn't need this. They addressed it briefly the way they did at SummerSlam by having these two guys have a little brawl and just remind you there's conflict. But you can build an entire premium live event around this being one of the big advertised matches. So I think this is smart that they did it this way. And I love. Look, Riddle is over. He is just, and we're look, Riddle. They're even moving away from the RK Bro. There's no mention of Randy tonight. There's no mention of that branding. That's sad if you're a Randy Orton fan, like I am, because that just tells me that Randy probably is just not coming back anytime soon for health reasons. So that sucks. But the fact that there's no Orton rub being rubbed in the audience's face, and that tonight Riddle was just Riddle in his mom's basement, who then he appears that he's there in DC and goes to fight Rollins, and the crowd is going banana. That's a great sign that you got a babyface here of the future, a babyface that has not won any big titles, has not been in any major matches. That's a good sign for the company. They got somebody to build on.
Do you think maybe this whole, obviously taking him off of SummerSlam because SummerSlam's already stacked, but do you think the break kind of helped break away from the RK Bro thing?
Yes.
Now he's been off and they can kind of reintroduce him?
Yeah. It's almost like, they need a little bit of time to say, okay, we're going to stop Riddle with this campaign of fulfilling what his bro Randy wanted him to do. Maybe Randy's not going to be back for a while. Let's just try to put that on the side, and let's just let Riddle be his own man. He's got a problem with Seth Rollins, so let's handle it.
When Randy comes, I'm going to say when he comes back. When that music hits, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to be so excited. We got someone who came back today, though, Veer Mahaan. Not just Veer coming back, Mahaan coming back. The last name tacked on there as well. He comes out and he gets a squash match. Jimmy, I've noticed, as I'm sure everyone else has, WWE has come back to it. The squash match is back, baby. We get at least one a week.
Well, that's the thing. You're not overdoing it. You're getting the occasional one that helps a talent, someone like a Veer Mahaan. And I love the fact that they're actually using both names now too. It's another sign that things are slowly changing. Maybe we will get an Austin Theory back eventually, instead of just calling him Theory. But maybe it's another small step in the right direction. But again, enhancement matches, I know people say, wow, we haven't seen enhancement matches since way back when, Superstars and Challenge and blah. Enhancement matches for guys like Veer Mahaan or any other big star that you're trying to get over to the audience helps.
And it helps, and to go a level further, when a guy like a Veer Mahaan, who doesn't have the years of experience in the ring reps, especially in front of a crowd, come on, Veer Mahaan's a guy who had several of his years during the pandemic, during empty arena situations. So he's still learning how to work in front of audiences. So what squash matches do with the enhancement talents, with the jobbers, it also allows a talent just to get over their signature moves. They're not boggled down with having to do 20 minutes with a commercial break in between, of the psychology of how do we keep an audience engaged for a back and forth, but we don't get to your finish for 20 minutes in. He may not be ready for that, but what these matches do here is it's like, okay, we want you to go out there, we want you to do your entrance, we want you to do all your things in your entrance. Here's your 4 featured moves. We need them to be showcased, and we want you to do it and make it last for 5 minutes. We saw the enhancement talent tonight, the Bo whatever. He was dodging, doing the cat and mouse game. That ball a little bit of time. It got Veer frustrated. Veer had to use his power to slow him down, and Veer got to get over his couple. He does like a Stez press. He does his whatever. He gets to the $1 million arm. It's a letting these guys crawl before they can walk without embarrassing them and taking them out of contention for being believed as main event guys. That's what this was doing tonight, and obviously Jimmy started, and this is what these matches are great for. It just lets guys come along at a slower pace, and that's what it is. And so I'm so in favor of having at least one every Raw back.
Yeah. It also keeps guys like Veer fresh on our mind. Like, oh yeah, he's winning. One thing that they didn't need to freshen me up on is when they said last time we saw Veer, he was trying to destroy the Mysterios. And I was thinking, yeah, seems to be the same thing that happens to the Mysterios all the time. That's what's happening to him now. People keep trying to destroy the Mysterios.
What Judgment Day is doing.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
I know it's we saw Ray earlier, and he's in another story. I don't think they had to bring that up anyways.
Yeah,
I agree.
So AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley, U.S. title on the line. This was a probably match of the night, I guess I'd say, because I guess the other contender I would say was Drew versus KO, but that one was DQ. So by logic, I say AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley was match of the night. And this one was great. We had Champa and Miz come out. They get chased off at some point. Dexter Lumis comes out. He gets stopped halfway through, but Bobby Lashley retains. He is still the U.S. champion after beating now 2 weeks in a row, just banger matches. Jimmy, the U.S. title, they said it on commentary, the highest accolade you can have on Monday Night Raw.
Exactly. They're putting the title over. They're making it meaningful again. They're making it a priority on their storytelling list for Monday nights, which is why maybe you can make the argument, which is the argument I'm going to make, that this match should have closed the show and left people thinking that, hey, with the U.S. title in the main event spot, that's what it means to this brand, and that's what it means to this company, and that's what it means to the fans too, that it is the title worth fighting for that we're going to see on this brand. So I don't know how many other ways I could put it, but and it's no disrespect to the guys that were in the last match, but this match, in my opinion, should have closed the show.
I would agree with that. This felt like it should have been the end, but Justin, this match, like Bobby continues to grow as just an unstoppable force, continues to put on great matches and beat big names. I'd love to hear your thoughts on him, but also who is Lumis after? Because he's come out twice now, and Miz and AJ were out there both times.
I think he's out after AJ. AJ was there at the commentary, and I know Miz is approaching him, but I'm going to say AJ. That would make more sense, I think. But and credit to, again, the way they're handling this. Obviously, we talked about the Easter eggs, but then even Lumis jumping the barricade and the security grabs him, and Corey Graves in commentary reacted as if it was a real rogue fan jumping the barricade. They were genuinely concerned for their health and well-being, and not knowing who this person is. Commentary is always bantering with each other. They were all embracing each other and helping. And then even when they came back from the break, they wanted to talk about it and subtleties. Corey Graves didn't even want to say Dexter Lumis's name. He said, let's not even give him the time. Let's focus back on this great match. Subtleties. Again, but it's hard to not to do right now because we're in such new phase. Previous creative direction would have been, we have to scream it in people's face. That was Dexter Lumis. He's going crazy. He's jumping barricade. No. Subtlety, because the presentation came off so much more natural, as if most people at this point we figured out it's Dexter Lumis. But still, when you watch it, you still might go, that's Dexter Lumis, but man, it looked like he really screwed up the match. It's the subtleties, the Jimmy's phrase, Jimmy and Arda, the little things, yes. And like you said, the subtleties and the little things. Even when they went to commercial, fade to black. Black.
It felt like
unprepared.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, when it went out, at first I was wondering if my sling got froze up or something, because the way it went out, I was like, oh, did something happen? And I had to and of course it started again. It was okay. Very.
Your sling got worked.
Yeah, it did. But I think we all agree definitely should have been the last match. But we got one more match before we get to the main event: Dakota Kai versus Dana Brooke. They had a backstage segment that I thought was kind of funny, because it was sort of like Dakota Kai said, "Hey, don't worry, Dana Brooke," and then she said, "But you should worry, Dana Brooke, because I'm going to beat you up." I don't know. It was kind of a weird way the promo went, but they have a match, and Justin, it felt like Dakota kind of just beat the crap out of Dana Brooke.
She did.
Yeah.
Dakota Kai is obviously more in the focus right now, what they're trying to build to. I'll be interested again with the change of creative, with the draft. Do we quietly do away with the 24/7 title? What's it? Obviously was a title that was created out of USA Network collaboration of let's spice things up several summers ago, and it's become a joke kind of conga line, title. So I'll be curious to see what happens there. But I mean, this was the right call. Dakota Kai and her trio is what they're building right now. So there's no other right answer for how to do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jimmy, if they made the 24/7 title disappear, I don't think anyone would argue, but it does seem weird to me that they reminded us pretty heavily last time that Dana Brooke was the 24/7 champion. But now it's like Dakota Kai went out of her way to say, I'll have a match with you, but not for the title. Please don't give me the title.
Right.
Kind of a weird setup.
It is kind of a weird setup. It's the uniqueness and the luster that the 24/7 championship used to have. I don't know if you want to put luster, but it was a lot more fun back in the day when Gerald Briscoe was pinning Crash Holly in the APA office and stuff like that. It was a little bit of ha-ha, but I think times have changed and people are not as into that kind of thing anymore. And
here's where I think the disconnect is. The 24/7 title, the subtext gimmick to it is you're a champion, but not for long. Versus early 2000s, and I'm going to reference one of my favorite Jimmy Korderas moments, the hardcore championship title was very transient and could be, defended and lost and won at any time. But because the gimmick was you had to be hardcore and you use some ridiculous and bloody and violent, gimmicks to do such, there was credibility. The hardcore title was the old Winged Eagle title ripped up and bandaged together, given to Mick Foley as a gag, as Mr. McMahon was looking down his nose at Mick Foley and how common and disgusting Mick Foley was, and then it evolved to the point of one of the greatest WrestleManias ever that I was at Houston. Jimmy's refereeing this match between Kane, Big Show, and Raven, where it's all about this damn title. These MFers are fighting all through the Astrodome. Golf carts breaking down, walls are falling down, but it wasn't a joke what they were fighting for, because one of the gimmicks of fighting for this title is you got to be hardcore.
Right.
So you need to get violent, you need to get bloody, you got to do some crazy things. Yeah, you might only be champion for 24 hours until somebody on Raw beats you the next day, but if they beat you, it's going to be because of something ridiculous and violent. The violence and the credibility is lost. Now the 24/7 title is just that's the disconnect of what it is.
I can see that makes sense. And thank you for bringing that up, Justin, because that was the only time I ever got chauffeured by Kane on the back of that.
And then the golf court, he ran it off the damn.
Yeah, and almost ran over some power wires, and we thought, the first thing I was thinking, that was the thing I was worried about.
What great analysis from Justin LaBar, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Jeez Louise, that's a clippable moment. If we had a producer right now, I'd say clip that out and put it on social media. I wish that was the main event. Forget AJ Styles and Bobby Lashley. We need to have that as the main event.
Yep.
But I digress. We have one more match to get to, folks. It's Theory versus Dolph Ziggler. And we kind of alluded to it, and Justin, I'll get your take on it first, is I like both these guys. It was a great match. I thought that it felt like there was some stuff on the line because they're both kind of in need of a win, but they're both guys that take L's pretty regularly. So for a main event after AJ Styles and Bobby Lashley, it felt a little underwhelming.
It did. I agree with Jimmy. I don't know why this match, why they pegged it as last. The only thing I can figure, maybe, look, the last hour does do the lowest, just because, again, the audience just, they go to bed and whatever. So maybe it's a philosophy of, okay, the U.S. title is meaning more. We want to put it earlier on the show. I don't know. But nonetheless, I was interested in this match, and Jimmy, I think you probably are right there with me. Dolph Ziggler takes L's with the best of them, but he sells better than anybody. Theory has not won anything since winning the briefcase. He's just lost he's just struck out in every which way. And then he was absent for a few weeks, so we all naturally wondered. Vince McMahon's on-screen chosen one. Is he Hunter's chosen one? So how does this match go down? It turns out to be a really good competitive match, and Dolph, again, selling like only Dolph can sell. Theory wins it, but I mean, yeah, this solidifies that they're going to run with Theory as the briefcase holder. Doesn't mean he's going to have a successful cash-in, but they at least reminded us that he's a briefcase holder. I don't know. Dolph was once Theory, so that's kind of cool. But I don't know what to make here. I still think that the jury might be out on, is Theory our guy who's going to be a world champion holder in the next year?
And it's so weird, Jimmy. I want to hear your thoughts too, but it's so weird how I usually don't get too hung up in like the order of stuff, but this one I can tell if we switched Theory and Ziggler and AJ and Bobby, my reaction to Theory and Ziggler would be so positive right now. But because it came at the end, I'm kind of like, eh.
Yeah, and the crowd, and you could tell from the crowd, they kind of felt the same because they were a little quiet through most of this. One of the reasons I think too, and you guys can, disagree with me here, was there wasn't something on the line. I mean, I don't know, I can't recall because, like I say, sometimes too many ref bumps over the years. But if maybe Dolph, who had one of the most successful cash-ins ever of that briefcase, would have said something to Theory along the lines of, hey, if you remember, I had one of the most successful cash-ins ever, and I can do it again. If you put that Money in the Bank briefcase on the line in a match against me, and if you lose that match, now I have that briefcase. If something was on the line,
that's oh my god, if that's on the line, the false finishes tonight, you're on the edge of your seat, going, oh my god, are they going to take this damn briefcase away from Theory?
And because of all the fans that know the backstage news of Vince being out, and this was Vince's guy, now you believe there's a chance that Dolph could be the guy to relieve him of the briefcase and take that spot.
I wonder if there's a way. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to, but you could almost turn Theory face by having him be the guy that now, instead of having the boss behind him, now has to fight to prove he deserves to be there.
I'd have a hard time buying that. Theory is a really good heel in the selfie thing, and I'd have a hard time buying that right now.
Yeah, he's hateable, but I'm trying to find ways. I like him, so I want people to like him.
I think Theory. First off, Theory is a good heel. I think Theory tonight. You watch him work with, and of course, Dolph can. Dolph could have a triple threat with Jimmy and I, and he'd make us look like studs if he wanted to. Dolph's really good. Theory is very good. I can see why Vince hitched his chosen one wagon to Theory. I really can.
Yeah.
I don't, for all the talk of Vince is out of touch or this and that, I think Vince saw and correctly saw potential in Theory. And I think Triple H probably to an extent sees it as well. Maybe has a different timeline, and that's where the discrepancy might come. But I mean, Theory has got it. He has it. He really does. I don't think that gets thrown away. I think it's just a matter. I think it's timeline. I think it's timeline of things that maybe aren't yet determined. Theory's push might get accelerated under the Triple H regime if there's 2 world titles. If there's an extra world title to be won, while Roman Reigns can be your other world champion, that changes things. If Roman Reigns is going to be your only world champion, well, then that's different. Now we got to get Theory.
Right.
Can we make the IC and US titles so distinguished that Theory cashes the Money in the Bank on one of those titles? There's a lot of dynamics at play, and I think that's what they're probably working through right now is what do we want? So,
yeah.
Jimmy, what are your odds if you were Vegas that Theory cashes in successfully at any point during his run?
I don't know. I don't.
It doesn't have to necessarily be against Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns not champion, but just in general.
But that's the thing when you talk about it doesn't have to be Roman Reigns. If you really want to elevate a U.S. title or an Intercontinental Championship, having someone cash in their Money in the Bank briefcase for one of those titles will absolutely elevate that title to a different level. Whereas, hey, he could have used that to cash in against the Undisputed World Heavyweight Championship, but he chose the United States title. And some people say, well, yeah, because he figured he had an opportunity there or a better chance of winning, whatever the case may be. At the same time, it does elevate that championship because it makes it look like it's important enough to use the briefcase to win.
But for that to happen, I think the title match, the US or IC title match, has to be almost pegged as the main event of a major show. So whatever show, whether it's a Raw or SmackDown that's advertised for weeks in advance, a Saudi show, a Survivor Series, whatever, it needs to be the main event show. That's the easiest way to make it seem like, okay, that was worthwhile, is that he cashed in on the main event of the show for that particular title. Right. And Triple H is doing the right steps right now to make those, like the way they're building the US and IC title. You know, you could peg it as a main event for a future premium event, and I'd buy into it. But I think that's how you have to do it. You can't cash in for US and IC, and then 30 minutes later give me Roman Reigns world title match and expect me to, that can't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And really quickly, if I can, Corey said something at the end of this match that not only pertains to Theory, but I think. Maybe a sign going forward. He said that the youth movement continues. And I think it was directed towards Theory, but at the same time, I think it was a little bit of a general statement as well.
I mean, it's I don't know how old everyone is, but it does seem true. At the very least, it's the fresh movement, moves on, new names and whatnot. So that I think that might be alluding to more and more of them coming up. That does it for this show, though. We covered everything. We went through the whole show. Before we sign off, anything you guys have to add on? Justin, how about anything you have to add, and where can the world find you online?
No, nothing to add. We covered it all. At Justin LaBar. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Back here Wednesday night with Jimmy and Issa for AEW, and it's a really exciting time. This feels like a total refresh of wrestling with what's going on in WWE. AEW is growing, and then the smaller guys, Impact, and
don't sleep on them. Yeah,
no, there's a lot going on. But again, I go back to, we have the Cardiff show coming up, then we have the Saudi show, Survivor Series, and then we get into Road to Mania. Like if Hunter's welcoming all suggestions now, what the hell is he going to be willing to listen to for Rumble?
The Rumble is going to be so exciting. Rumble's my favorite show of the year anyways, so I can't wait. Until Rick Boogs comes back, wins it all. It's going to be incredible.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Tremendous.
What's the first WrestleMania booked completely by Triple H going to look like?
Ooh.
Think about that.
It's going to be Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano. Book it.
I'm trying to do the eyebrow. It's not working here. Anyway,
that seems to be the rumor. But Jimmy, any final thoughts, and where can the world find you online?
No, I agree. This is a great time. If you're a wrestling fan, try not to overanalyze everything. Just sit back, relax, and try to enjoy. Don't try. We critique because this is what we do on the show. But if you're just as a fan, I'm enjoying wrestling across the board right now, and you can see some of my fun critiques. I like to make them fun on my at Jimmy Korderas or at Real Jimmy Korderas on Instagram, doing the old, here's a cheap plug, ref and rants daily from Monday to Friday. And I like to have fun with them and in my critiques, so to speak. And again, like I said, I'm having fun being a wrestling fan. I'm having fun being on here talking about it with you guys, and on Wednesday nights with Justin and Issa. And I'm going to do it for as long as I can.
Yeah, we're paid to fill the 90 minutes to debates. That's why we're Monday morning quarterback and everything.
There you go.
Absolutely. Well, this was fun. It's always fun chatting with you guys. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can also check me. I got a Twitch now, Real Jack Farmer at Twitch. Or not
Jack, your hair looks kind of flat. What's going on tonight?
You know, I got to be honest with you. We have family over, and they were cooking right before we got on. It's about 1,000 degrees where I'm sitting right now, and everything is just kind of coming down right now. So I am going to try to cool down.
Look at the two aficionados of hair on your left and right.
Yeah.
Your hair is looking a little flat.
Yeah, I wish I had that.
Speaking of Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, right. Oh my God,
Yeah.
if I had your hair.
I know, no kidding.
Well, if you guys use our new sponsor, no, we don't have a sponsor.
This is why you need to be watching the video version of the podcast. If you're listening on Tuesday, just driving around, just hearing our sultry voices, if you don't know what we look like, you need to be watching the video. You need to see Jimmy. Jimmy is the pro wrestling referee vet. I'm the mid-30s dude rocking my Under Armour and dad bod. And then there's Jack with his NSYNC boy band, good-looking hair, hosting this show.
It's the only reason I'm here. Once it's gone, I'm gone.
Oh, no.
That's all I got.
Yeah, because this is how we do it.
Jack Farmer, a great DJ for weddings, too.
Yes, I'm a wedding DJ. You can find me again at Real Jack Farmer across all social media.
Jack, what's the most unusual first dance song you ever played?
Oh, yeah, there's been some weird ones. We'll have to...
No, give me a weird one. Come on. Sign us off. Sign us off on a weird one.
Yes. I don't want to say, because if they hear, then they'll know who I'm talking.
Oh, no, I'm not. No. Don't give me the names of the people getting married. Tell me the song.
If I say the songs, then people are going to know, like, oh, I mean, the first dance isn't usually too weird, but I get some weird requests.
Just say the song. I'm not. If the married couple happens to be watching, you're not naming them. Just tell me the song.
Yeah.
I don't have any good any
come on. You don't have to name them.
I'm pleading the fifth.
Everybody uses Etta James at last, or
we do get a lot of Etta James at last. We get a lot of Ed Sheeran is always very popular in the first.
Give me the weirdest one. Come on, give me a weird one.
I don't have any. I'm gonna plead the fifth. Pleading the fifth, and we're signing off.
Okay,
we're done. We're done. So here, I'll see you guys next week, or you can check out the NXT